Hello, beautiful awakened souls, and welcome to another podcast episode of the Awakened Souls podcast. I am Devin Brown, your host, Kundalini activator, spiritual guide, and hopefully just overall entertainment. So I did not get this episode out yesterday, Monday, like normal. However, for a very good reason, which is actually the topic of said podcast today, we are going to talk about play and the importance of play, not only for yourself, but your inner child, your relationships, and so much more. Yesterday was a day that I took to myself to literally just live in the moment and find play and pleasure in everything that I did. I started out sleeping in, woke up, had my coffee, and then I met up with my amazing partner and we left to go run some errands, which never sounds fun, but anything fun with this person is absolutely incredible. So, or anything monotonous turns into fun just because we laugh, we joke. And we ended up going to this pick your own sunflower farm out. Probably it took us 40 minutes to get there, but it was absolutely incredible. So much fun. And we left from there and we went and saw a movie. We went out to dinner. We went for a walk along the river and we literally just found play all day long. We went from one thing to another thing to another thing. And I allowed my inner child to kind of just look at things with wonder and look at things with a new perspective. So I want to put an example out there. When you see a butterfly, your reaction to seeing a butterfly is a lot different than how you as a kid would have been when you saw a butterfly. As a child, you would have been looking at it in all sorts of different ways, paying attention to how their wings seem to have like a little bit of glitter dust, almost like they're magical beings that go from one dimension to another. Or maybe that was just me. As adults, we look and we're like, oh, look, a butterfly. And we try and point our kids to look at it. Or maybe we try and snap a quick picture so that we can share with everybody, hey, look at what I did. Or look at what I saw type situation. But I'm really embracing the message that Ireland came home with me. And that was to live in the moment, to completely let go of external validation and to just play, have fun and play. And one of the things I want to put in perspective is I'm looking at the fact that my boyfriend or life partner and I, we went out, we were running errands and we were able to go out and literally went and paid a tax bill, went to a grocery store, went and did something on a project he's working on. And these things would be considered a task or considered a chore among most of us. And even in my past, it would have been something that I didn't look forward to. But I chose to go with pleasure because we just laugh and we joke around and we have a good time. And I feel like there's so many of us that when we're in these relationships, specifically dating or romantic relationships, we put a certain face forward. We allow ourselves to have that play, flirtatious, jokester type attitude. But then as we move forward and we go forward, a lot of the times life situations come into play like they always do. We're human. We're here for a human experience. And as those life situations come, we end up getting stuck in survival mode or getting stuck feeling like our partner should be responding different than they were when we first met them. Now, granted, there is a big difference between someone being fully committed to you and getting to know you and already knowing you. So that's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is the fact that for some reason we have this idea and we seem to lose that play as relationships get serious, and we tend to focus more on the monotony of life and the monotony of trials and tribulations and things that we're walking together. Kids definitely make it harder to keep the play aspect sometimes, but there can be a way to incorporate your kids in that. There can be a way to allow yourself time to continue to enjoy each other. And what do I mean by play? Play is allowing yourself permission to have your inner child join with the fun of who you are as an adult. As kids, we aren't worried about the everyday life. We're not worried about how we're going to pay our bills, how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that. Now, if you're coming from a poverty traumatized version, that's actually something you need to heal and something you do need to fix and work on. So this particular example might not be the best for you, but normally as children, you are able to focus on just how you can bring joy to your day. And as adults, though, we don't quite have that luxury, but we should. We should find a way to bring joy and laughter into every situation. The relationships that we surround ourselves with, if they're not bringing us joy, if they're not bringing us peace, if they're not bringing us laughter, then maybe they're not something that needs to be in our lives, even if it's temporary or even if it's like a permanent change. Now, this is not to say that you don't be with someone when they are going through a hard time, because we all go through hardships. We all go through triggered stages. We all go through those. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about a relationship that consistently shows you when you're with that person, you feel drained, you feel energetically withdrawn, you feel bad about yourself, you feel like you can never do anything right. Like when you have relationships that every single time you're with that person, that's what comes up. Or maybe your body gets a visceral response. Maybe your throat feels like somebody's closing it. Maybe your chest gets tight. Maybe your heart begins to race. Maybe you feel like you're stumbling on your words all the time. Your body is trying to tell you, I do not feel safe around this person. I want out. And this is something to pay attention to. You need to pay attention to what your body is giving you. But play is so important in healing. Like one of the things we do to heal our inner child is we allow that inner child to be treated and to be to be loved and to be ingrained in the relationship with ourselves that we should have gotten as a child. So an example is, let's say you did grow up in a poverty mindset. And so like as a kid, all you did was focused on, I know mom's worried about money, or I know dad's worried about money. Am I going to be homeless soon? Or maybe was not knowing if there was going to be another violent episode in your house, or maybe it was just not feeling emotional needs met, feeling neglected or abused. Like there's so many different things that as children we do not get, or we don't get in the way that we need. And so being the parent that you are to yourself now, because regardless of if you have kids or not, you are your own parent. You are the parent to the inner child within yourself, because you're an adult now. No one gets access to you unless you give them access to you. Period. That is 100% the truth right there. And it's a matter of being there for yourself the way that you should have been given by your parent figures when you were a kid. And in doing so, you're going to allow that inner child, that inner wonder, that inner sense of peace, that inner sense of joy, that inner sense of wonder to come out to play in the midst of relationships. And one of the things that I have discovered is play has so much value when it comes to healing. And I was actually talking to somebody about this the other day. Like I remember with my ex, like we did long distance up until we got married. We got moved in together 3 weeks before we got married, or I moved up to like Pennsylvania, where he's from, 3 weeks before we got married. And it was kind of one of those situations. We really did not know each other very well, apart from, I guess, like the long distance things. Like we would have summer breaks and things like that we could spend together. But like the play dynamic was something that could easily come up in the small amounts of time that we were together. And then when we put ourselves together in the everyday of living together, we were thrown into like chaos when we first got married. Like literally we went into survival mode from the beginning, and then somewhere in there play was just never on the table again. And I remember I think we had been married for about 11 years at this point, because I'm remembering what house we were living in. And we finally hired a babysitter to go out on a date for the first time in so long. Don't even remember how long it had been. We went out, and I just felt so relieved and so excited to be out, to be free and to be with the person that I loved and actually spending time with somebody who I wanted to spend time with. And I remember we got home and I'm making jokes and being myself, like 100% who I am today all the time. That's how I was being with my ex. And I remember he looked at me and pointed at me. He's like, this right here, this is what I need. I need you to be like this all the time. And I looked at him. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like this. You're happy. You're joyful. You're like laughing and jumping around. And I felt like he had slapped me in the face. And part of that was just because my thoughts were, but this is just me. I'm literally being me. Does he not like who I am on a regular basis? But what I realized, instead of saying, okay, wait, why am I not like this all the time if I'm just being me? Why am I not like this? What needs to change? It kind of was one of those perspectives that things definitely should have ended differently in that conversation than they did. But hindsight is 2020. I look at it now and I realize I was stuck in such survival mode and disassociation and just like felt like my inner child was never safe. I felt never safe. I did not feel emotionally connected in a way that allowed me to have that part of me come out all the time. Like I felt disconnected from myself in a big way. And that's where my trauma therapy came in, my EMDR therapy came in, my 2 years of digging deep into the past were actually, it'll be 2 years in October, I believe it is, that I had started trauma therapy. But I had been doing my own deep inner work before I started seeing my therapist. So going beyond that, like I recognize how easy it is to lose sight of yourself. I recognize how easy it is to lose play in your relationships. And I recognize that some relationships don't deserve your play. The relationship that I had with my ex, we had a lot of toxic dynamics. Like it was codependent, like the narcissistic feeding, you do everything and I'll just take type situation. And it was one of those situations where I literally was so on empty. I was so, I could not give anymore. I literally could not give anymore. And the fact that I had a day where I had somebody else step in and I was able to actually just go find play had made me so excited that I was able to let my inner child come out, but she did not feel safe enough to stay out. And so I recognize how hard it is to stay in a place of vulnerability, to stay in a place of play. But that is where it comes to finding relationships that draw that play out. And let me say this, find relationships that draw that play out that don't require things that numb your mind. When I had that instance with my ex where we had gone out, I had actually allowed myself to have 2 drinks. I was feeling not drunk, maybe a little bit tipsy, and I was able to have my inhibitions kind of relinquished. Now, I rarely drink. Me and my partner have traveled and been on vacations where I literally do not take a single sip of alcohol. I don't need it to have fun anymore. I don't need it to joke around. If I drink, it's because that sounds really good. I would never buy the alcohol to make that. I want to try it. Sometimes I'm just like, I really could use a glass of red wine. I love the taste of red wine. It's the actual taste of it. Like I do not drink in the need to drink. And I think I had talked about this in previous episodes when it comes to a lot of us, especially with medical marijuana being so open, like so many of us are using that as a survival tool and as a survival mechanism and using that as a way to shut our brains down enough to enter deep meditative states. And there's the ashwagandha roots and all of these other plant medicines that people are using to break through the veil, which I have nothing against those whatsoever, but like being able to reach yourself to a vibration, being able to reach yourself to a point of healing, being able to reach yourself to a point of peace where you are able to not only exit survival mode, but allow play to come out without the help of these substances is the best gift you can give for yourself. I do understand that not all of us have the time, energy, or desire to do that. We kind of want to use these substances because it is easier, but I can tell you the difference that it makes when you don't and you still get yourself to that vibration is absolutely incredible. I think I'm at this point, like sorry, I'm trying to do math in my head. I let my medical marijuana card like lapse and expire, and I just got rid of everything. Like I just didn't need it anymore. And I think at this point it was like 8 months ago. Like I just truly reached a point where I no longer need these substances. I'm not going to do it. And like I said, that's not to say that you have to do this. Oh, the spiritual leader's doing this, so let me do this. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is I reached a point where I don't want that stuff in my life. Like I just don't need it. And I allow myself to have relationships that bring out the play, that bring out the joy, that bring out the peace, the inner love, the inner wisdom, the goofiness, the inappropriate jokes that I won't say around children, like the fun times. Like, and that is what you need to do. You need to make sure that you are putting effort and time into relationships that are going to feed you and that are going to be a safe space for that inner child to come out without the need for inhibitions. We are living in a world that gives so much focus on external validation, so much focus on like the videos on Instagram, the reels, the TikTok reels, all this stuff. We'll sit there and we'll mindlessly scroll because we're looking for the next dopamine hit. We're looking for the next. But they're all a little less active for us than they were before. But instead of looking at other people playing and having a good time and thinking, oh, that's funny, why don't you get out and do it for yourself? Get out there and play. Go get yourself a slip and slide off Amazon for $15. Set it up in your backyard and do it with your adult friends. Like, you can find play in so many ways. And addendum to that, only do that if you feel like you live in a safe enough area to do so. Like, I love joining my little child on the slip and slide that we have in our backyard. Like, it just brings me joy and it brings them joy too. Like, we just crack up. That being said, I think it's so easy to lose ourselves, and it's so easy to forget what play does for us. And it's so easy to forget how necessary play is for our lives. Like, kids are supposed to play. Kids are supposed to have fun. But if you didn't get that as a child, if you didn't keep that going into adulthood, then you need to find a way to bring it back to yourself. And you will be so surprised at what ends up happening. Like, literally, I have created a life for myself where I don't feel like I need to run away anymore. I don't feel like I need to keep myself busy. I don't feel like I need to jump from one thing to another thing because I have found that inner peace. I have found that inner love. I have found that inner wisdom. I have found a relationship with myself and a relationship with the world around me where I just don't need to run. I don't need a vacation from my life. And so if you have any way that you can bring a little bit of peace and a little bit of joy and a little bit of prosperity in the mental health, laughing mindset of yourself, I would encourage you to do that this week. Find something that you can look at and say, I wish I would have done that, or I wish I would have given myself an opportunity, and then go do it. Find yourself a chance to do something fun that doesn't cost money. Like that sunflower farm I went to, you could have walked around and not picked sunflowers. Like, you only had to pay if you were picking, but it still made great photos. It still made great opportunities. Like, it was wonderful. And it's a matter of just allowing yourself to laugh. Give yourself permission to laugh. Give yourself permission to find and seek joy over anger. Give yourself permission to be surrounded with boredom versus chaos. That was the hardest thing for me on my healing journey. I was so used to living in chaos, like growing up in the family that I grew up in, and then constantly seeking approval and seeking validation in a marriage after that. Like, I had lost myself so completely. I had lost who I was so completely. And it took me being willing to be bored, being willing to stop the running and stop the chase and pull dynamic and just say, no, I'm enough as I am right now. I am healed as I am right now. These things are no longer serving me. They don't have any purpose and they don't have any validation for me. So I'm no longer going to feed into them. And play is just such an integral part for this. Play is such a important part for this. And so I'm going to just share something that I posted on my business media page the other day. And it's a picture of me and my partner. And it's just play, play, play. It's so important to bring your authentic self to the table from the beginning of the relationship all the way to the end. With that, it is important to be in a relationship that allows you to laugh, find joy, happiness, and peace, exiting survival mode and staying out of it. To have relationships that will pull you out of dysregulation and calm your nervous system when needed. Play is so important for our inner child healing. Play is how we heal dis-ease in the body, and that's dis-ease. Play is how we bring joy to others. Find relationships that reach into that part of you that loves to laugh so much you pee your pants or snort through your nose. Find that deep joy that comes to you from simply being in a safe enough space to be you. Live, laugh, and then repeat. And that's it, guys. Live, laugh, and repeat. My quantum circle is open for anybody who's interested. This is a monthly energetic reading along with a monthly Reiki 5D to 9D, depending on where you're at, energetic healing space. To go with that, along with every week we do a Monday tarot reading card where we pull a tarot card or several, depending on what the guides have for us, and give the message and the focus for the week. And I finished my book, which very excited about that. It's getting to the publisher this week. And we're going to start the editing process. We're going to be getting this out there. And with that, my Kundalini Rising or Kundalini Activation program is going to be starting. I'm going to have this set up in a couple different tiers. I'm still working on and fine-tuning the final details, but I am going to open it up to 10 spots for one-on-one mentorship through this program. I'm not going to do any more than 10 to begin with. And those 10 spots will be definitely more hands-on. You will have face-to-face interactions with me. You will have access to me through Voxer. You will have a lot more guidance in this direction, but then I'm also going to have kind of a self-paced program that still allows the different energetic healings and the different energetic activations to get you to your Kundalini awakening and get you to access those spiritual gifts that you have that may not be online yet. And that is going to all take place and launch this fall. So otherwise, feel free to look me up on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook to the Awakened Souls, or Devin.Brown with an E on the end, 21 on Facebook. And otherwise, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week and go find your play.